Commander Sarah Chen watched the stars from the observation deck of Luna Station. Earth hung below like a blue marble, peaceful and beautiful. It was hard to believe that just 80 years ago, humans had barely reached their own moon. Now they had colonies in 7 star systems and were spreading further every year. The hegemony of Kethvar had watched this expansion with growing anger. 4 alien species ruled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. They controlled trade routes, decided which planets could be settled, and crushed any species that grew too strong too fast. To them, humans were nothing more than upstart primitives who needed to learn their place. High Admiral Zexthul of the Hegemony Fleet studied the tactical display in his command ship. 12 planet-killer missiles hung in space at the edge of Earth's solar system, invisible to human sensors. Each missile carried enough antimatter to crack a continent in half. The plan was simple: fire the missiles, let the humans see their approaching doom, then offer to spare Earth if humanity surrendered completely. "Surely they will see reason," said his tactical officer. "No species chooses extinction over submission." Zexthul's 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "These humans have been lucky so far. Their rapid expansion ends today. Fire all missiles." The 12 weapons streaked toward Earth at near light speed. Each missile was a masterpiece of hegemony technology, designed to punch through any known defense system. The aliens expected the human fleet to scatter in panic, leaving Earth defenseless. But humans had spent decades preparing for this moment. Every child learned about the possibility of alien attack. Every colony contributed to Earth's defense fund. The planet was protected by hundreds of orbital weapons platforms, each one built with human determination and ingenuity. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in Earth Defense Command, watching the incoming missiles on his screens. Alarms blared throughout. The facility as tracking computers calculated impact times and trajectories. 12 missiles, sir," reported his weapons officer. "Impact in 47 minutes. Webb felt his stomach drop, but his voice stayed steady. "All defense platforms, engage at maximum range. Launch every interceptor we have. Send the emergency signal to all civilian ships. Any pilot willing to ram those missiles, the fleet will take care of their families forever." The battle for Earth began 30 million kilometers out. Railguns fired streams of metal slugs at the incoming missiles. Laser arrays carved beams of death through space. Fighter squadrons screamed toward the weapons, their pilots knowing they would not return home. The first missile died when a converted cargo ship rammed it head-on. Captain Maria Santos had 3 children on Earth. Her last transmission was simple: "Tell them Mommy loves them." The second missile fell to concentrated laser fire from Platform 7. The crew cheered for exactly 5 seconds before turning their weapons on the next target. One by one, the missiles died. Human ships threw themselves at the weapons like bullets fired at bullets. Defense platforms overloaded their reactors to boost weapon power. Fighter pilots with no hope of survival guided their ships into missile engines. But 12 missiles were too many. The 11th missile was destroyed, just 10,000 kilometers from Earth's surface. Its explosion lit up the night sky like a second sun. People in cities around the world looked up and knew that death had come very close. The 12th missile punched through the final defensive line and detonated in the Pacific Ocean. The antimatter explosion was visible from Mars. A dome of fire rose from the ocean, followed by a shock wave that circled the planet twice. The blast created a crater on the seafloor 30 kilometers wide. Water rushed in to fill the hole, then exploded outward as a tsunami that raced toward every coastline. Cities died in minutes. Tokyo vanished under a wall of radioactive water, 300 meters high. Los Angeles was swept clean off the map. Sydney, Jakarta, Manila, coastal cities around the Pacific disappeared as if they had never existed. 200 million people died in the first hour. Radiation poisoned half the ocean. Fallout clouds spread across 3 continents. The planet that had been humanity's beautiful blue home became a scarred and weeping world. In Earth Defense Command, Admiral Webb watched the death toll climb on his screens. Reports flooded in from around the globe. Cities gone, millions dead, entire coastlines wiped clean. The worst attack in human history had succeeded. "Sir," said his communications officer, her voice shaking, "we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Fleet." Webb straightened his shoulders. "Put it through." High Admiral Zexthul appeared on the main screen, his alien features arranged in what humans would recognize as smug satisfaction. "Greetings, Admiral Webb. I am Zexthul of the Hegemony. You have witnessed a small demonstration of our power. 1 missile out of 12 reached your world. Imagine if all 12 had struck home." Webb said nothing, but his hands clenched into fists. "Your casualties are regrettable but necessary," continued the alien commander. "Humanity has expanded too quickly, claimed too many worlds. This ends now. You will withdraw all human colonies to your home system. You will destroy your military fleet. You will accept hegemony oversight of all human activities. In return, we will not finish what we started today." Still, Webb remained silent. "You have 1 standard day to consider our terms," Zexthul said. "Refuse and we will send 1,000 missiles next time. Your choice is simple: surrender or extinction." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in terrible quiet. Around the galaxy, similar messages were being delivered to every human colony, every ship, every settlement. The aliens expected panic, surrender, the collapse of human resistance. They had never been more wrong about anything in their long history. Webb turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all human worlds, all ships, every settlement, and station." "Channel open, sir." Webb looked directly into the camera, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 200 million dead and the fury of 10 billion survivors. "This is Admiral Webb of Earth Defense Command. 1 hour ago, the Hegemony of Kethvar fired 12 planet-killer missiles at our homeworld. They murdered 200 million of our people. They poisoned our oceans. They tried to break our spirit. With 1 attack, then demanded our surrender." He paused, and in that pause, every human listening could hear the rage building in his voice. "They don't understand who they're dealing with. They think we're like every other species they've bullied into submission. They think fear will make us kneel. They think we'll trade our freedom for their mercy." Webb's voice rose, carrying across light years to every human ear. "They're wrong. They killed our families. They attacked our home. They wanted to show us their power. Now we'll show them ours. This is not a call for surrender. This is a call for war. Total war. Complete war. War that will not end until every single being responsible for this attack answers for what they've done." In asteroid mining ships around Alpha Centauri, crews began converting their equipment into weapons. On agricultural worlds, farmers welded armor plating to their tractors. In deep space research stations, scientists started designing new ways to kill aliens. The message spread through human space like wildfire. On Earth, survivors pulled themselves from the radioactive ruins and began building weapons factories. In the ashes of their cities, the Hegemony had made one critical error in their calculations. They assumed that devastating first strike would break human morale. Instead, it had awakened something that had slept in the human soul since their species learned to make war. They had awakened humanity's wrath, and that wrath would burn across the stars until justice was done. 24 hours after the attack, High Admiral Zexthul waited for humanity's surrender message. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that the primitive species had learned their lesson. Around him, his officers prepared to receive Earth's submission. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we are receiving transmissions from human space." "Excellent," Zexthul said. "Display their surrender terms." But the message that appeared on his screen was not what he expected. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the asteroid mining ship Iron Will. We're coming for you." More messages flooded in from across human space. Mining crews, cargo haulers, research teams, agricultural workers, all sending the same basic message. They were coming for the hegemony, not to negotiate, not to discuss terms, to fight. Zexthul's tactical officer looked confused. "Admiral, these appear to be civilian vessels. Why are they sending military threats?" Before Zexthul could answer, his long-range sensors detected movement throughout human space. Ships were leaving their positions and heading toward hegemony territory. Hundreds of ships, then thousands. "This makes no sense," muttered the tactical officer. "They should be begging for mercy." Back in human space, the greatest military mobilization in history was beginning. On Earth, Admiral Webb coordinated the effort from a command center built in the ruins of San Francisco. Every human colony, every settlement, every ship was contributing to the war effort. The response was unlike anything seen before in galactic history. Agricultural worlds stripped their own defenses, sending every armed ship to the front lines. Mining operations converted their equipment into weapons. Even luxury passenger liners were being fitted with missile pods. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her converted asteroid miner as it joined a growing fleet near Proxima Centauri. Her ship had been designed to crack open space rocks. Now it was armed with the same mining charges repurposed as kinetic weapons. "Captain," said her engineer, a young man named Torres, "the weapons conversion is complete. We've got 40 mining charges ready to deploy, plus the drilling laser has been upgraded to military specifications. Around them, similar ships were making the same modifications. Ice haulers became missile platforms. Research vessels became electronic warfare ships. The entire human merchant fleet was transforming into a war machine." Dr. Sarah Kim worked frantically in her laboratory on New Geneva. Before the attack, she had been researching peaceful applications for antimatter. Now she was designing warheads. Around her, every human scientist was doing the same thing, turning their knowledge toward the art of war. The new torpedo design is ready, she reported to Admiral Webb via secure transmission. "It's based on their own antimatter technology, but we've made improvements. Each warhead carries 3 times the explosive power of traditional hegemony weapons." This was happening everywhere in human space. Engineers who had built space habitats were now designing battle stations. Computer programmers who had written peaceful software were creating targeting systems. Even artists were contributing, designing psychological warfare broadcasts to demoralize the enemy. 3 days after the attack, the first human strike force reached the outer edges of hegemony space. It was led by Admiral Jessica Kane aboard the battlecruiser Vengeance. Her fleet included 60 converted civilian ships and 20 proper warships. The target was Kethvar Colony 7, a mining operation on the edge of hegemony territory. The aliens expected a human diplomatic mission, possibly carrying surrender terms. Instead, they got a brief transmission from Admiral Kane. "You killed our children. We're returning the favor." The battle lasted 18 minutes. Human ships, designed for peaceful purposes but armed with desperate fury, overwhelmed the colony's defenses. But the humans didn't destroy the facilities or murder the civilians. Instead, they did something that shocked the galaxy. They evacuated the entire alien population to internment camps, then systematically dismantled every piece of hegemony technology. The mining equipment was stripped down to basic components. The communication arrays were torn apart and studied. The defense platforms were captured intact for reverse engineering. When hegemony reinforcements arrived 6 hours later, they found empty installations and a single message broadcast on all frequencies. "Your people are safe. Your equipment belongs to us now. This is what justice looks like." The aliens were baffled. In their experience, warfare meant destruction and death. But humans were fighting a different kind of war. Colonel Maria Santos, sister of the pilot who had died ramming the first missile, led the technical teams that studied captured hegemony equipment. Working with barely any sleep, her engineers began to understand alien technology and improve upon it. Their weapons are more advanced than ours, she reported to Admiral Webb. But their design philosophy is completely different. They build for overwhelming superiority against weaker enemies. We build for survival against stronger ones. This difference would prove crucial. Human technology was designed to be repaired in the field, modified quickly, and mass-produced under difficult conditions. Hegemony technology was elegant, but inflexible. Within a week, human factories were producing hybrid weapons that combined alien technology with human innovation. Ships began carrying shields based on captured hegemony designs, but powered by human fusion reactors that were smaller and more efficient. High Admiral Zexthol watched these developments with growing concern. His species had ruled the galaxy by making examples of troublesome races. A swift, devastating attack usually ended resistance immediately. "Admiral," reported his intelligence officer, "the humans are not responding according to established patterns. They appear to be treating this as a total war scenario." "Impossible," Zexthol replied. "We destroyed only one of their worlds. Casualties were minimal by galactic standards. They should be seeking negotiations." But the reports kept coming in. Human fleets were striking hegemony outposts across a front spanning dozens of light years. Each attack followed the same pattern: evacuation of civilians, capture of technology, complete destruction of military assets. More disturbing were the human tactics. They fought with an intensity that shocked seasoned hegemony warriors. Human. Pilots would ram their ships into hegemony vessels when their weapons ran out. Human ground troops advanced through defensive fire that should have stopped any rational army. Captain Thekvar of the hegemony cruiser Dominant Star limped back to base after his first encounter with human forces. His ship had been crippled by converted mining vessels that attacked like living missiles. "They don't fight like soldiers," he reported to his commanders. "They fight like every single one of them has a personal reason for being there. Our psychological warfare has no effect. They won't surrender even when facing certain death." What the hegemony didn't understand was that this was exactly what was happening. Every human in the war fleet had watched the missiles strike on Earth. They had seen the cities die. They had counted the dead. This wasn't a military conflict to them. It was revenge for murdered families. Admiral Kane's forces struck again at Kethvar Colony 4. This time, the hegemony was ready. 3 full battle groups defended the system, armed with the most advanced weapons in their arsenal. The humans attacked anyway. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships, jury-rigged with captured alien technology, traded shots with purpose-built hegemony warships. For every human vessel destroyed, the aliens lost 2. For every human who died, they took 3 enemies with them. When the smoke cleared, Colony 4 was in human hands. The cost had been terrible. Half of Kane's fleet was destroyed or crippled. But the message was clear to every alien in the galaxy. Humans would pay any price for victory. They would accept any casualties to achieve their goals. They fought not for conquest or territory, but for something the hegemony had never encountered before. They fought for justice. And justice, the aliens were learning, was a concept that could not be negotiated with, could not be intimidated, and would not stop until it was satisfied. The war was just beginning. 3 months after the attack on Earth, the hegemony was facing a nightmare they had never imagined. What should have been a quick demonstration of power had become a grinding war against an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every defeat. Commander. Vextal sat in his strategic planning chamber, studying reports from across the front lines. His 4 arms moved restlessly as he read each document, his mind struggling to understand what was happening. "The humans have captured 15 more systems," reported his aide. "They follow the same pattern every time. Evacuate our civilians, steal our technology, destroy our military assets." Vextal made a sound of frustration. How are they learning so quickly? Their technology was centuries behind ours just months ago. The answer lay in humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt and learn. Every captured hegemony device was immediately sent to human research facilities, where teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand and improve alien technology. Dr. Sarah Kim had barely slept in weeks. Her laboratory on New Geneva was now the center of human weapons research, filled with captured hegemony equipment and prototypes of new human designs. "We've cracked their shield technology," she reported to Admiral Webb during their daily briefing. "But we've made it better. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and large projectiles. Ours can adapt to any attack pattern within seconds." This was happening across human space. Engineers were improving alien engines. Computer specialists were breaking alien codes. Biologists were studying alien physiology to develop more effective weapons. But the hegemony's real problem wasn't human technology. It was human psychology. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her mining ship, now officially designated as the light cruiser, Earth's Vengeance. Around her neck hung a small pendant containing soil from the ruins of Tokyo, where her sister had lived. "Target acquired," reported her weapons officer. "Hegemony supply convoy, 3 freighters and 2 escort vessels. Signal the fleet," Vasquez ordered. "Remember the broadcast protocol. Before every engagement, human forces followed the same routine. They broadcast a list of names, the dead from Earth's coastal cities. 200 million names, read slowly and clearly so the aliens would understand exactly why humans were hunting them. Sarah Chen, age 7, Tokyo. Miguel Rodriguez, age 12, Los Angeles. Anna Peterson, age 4, Sydney. The list went on for hours, but human crews never grew tired of hearing it. Each name was a reminder of why they fought. The psychological effect on hegemony forces was devastating. Alien soldiers began to crack under the pressure of fighting an enemy that seemed to be motivated by pure vengeance. Colonel Threkvar of the Hegemony Marine Corps submitted his report after another failed defense of a border world. "The humans don't fight like any enemy we've faced before," he wrote. "They accept casualties that would break any rational military force. When their ammunition runs out, they use their ships as weapons. When their ships are destroyed, they continue fighting with hand tools." He paused in his writing, remembering the horror of close combat against human soldiers. "I watched a human female continue fighting after losing an arm. She used her own blood to blind my soldiers, then killed 3 of them with a broken piece of metal. When we finally brought her down, her last words were 'for Earth.' They all say that. Every single one of them." What the hegemony didn't understand was that humans had turned warfare into something personal. This wasn't a conflict between governments or military forces. It was a family feud on a galactic scale. Admiral Kane, promoted after her victories in the outer systems, now commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled. Her ships were a mixture of converted civilian vessels and new warships built using hybrid technology. "Admiral," reported her intelligence officer, "we've identified the hegemony fleet responsible for launching the missiles." Kane felt her heart rate increase. "Where are they?" "The Kethvar 3rd Battle Group, under High Admiral Zex Thul. They're stationed at the hegemony fortress world of Darwin Prime." Kane studied the tactical display showing the enemy positions. Darwin Prime was one of the most heavily defended worlds in hegemony space, protected by hundreds of weapons platforms and 3 full battle fleets. A rational military commander would have avoided such a target. Kane's response was different. "Signal the fleet. We're going to Darwin Prime." Her officers exchanged worried glances. The tactical officer cleared his throat nervously. "Admiral, our intelligence suggests that attacking Darwin Prime would result in 90% casualties for our forces." Kane's voice was cold as vacuum. "Zex Thul gave the order to fire those missiles. Zex Thul killed our families. Zex Thul is going to pay for what he did, whatever the cost. This was the human way of war. not based on strategic calculations or political objectives, but on a simple concept of justice. The people responsible for the attack on Earth would be punished, regardless of the price. The fleet that departed. For Darwin Prime included ships from every human colony. Agricultural worlds sent their patrol boats. Mining operations contributed their heavy haulers. Even the luxury resort planet of New Hawaii sent its security forces. But humans weren't just sending ships. They were sending themselves. Volunteers flocked to the military recruiting stations that had been set up on every human world. Many were civilians with no military training, but they all shared the same motivation. Private Jackson Torres had been a teacher on Proxima Colony before the war. Now he was part of the 2nd Human Assault Regiment, preparing for the ground invasion of Darwin Prime. "Why did you enlist?" asked the reporter who was documenting the human war effort. Torres held up a photo of his students. "These kids asked me why the aliens wanted to hurt Earth. I couldn't give them an answer that made sense. So I decided to make sure the aliens never get the chance to ask that question about their world." Across human space, similar stories were playing out. A grandmother from Mars colony joined the naval reserves because her grandson had died in the Pacific tsunami. A young artist from Europa enlisted in the Space Marines because he wanted to ensure that human children would grow up free. The hegemony watched this mobilization with growing alarm. They had fought many wars against many species, but they had never seen an entire civilization unite for a single purpose. High Admiral Zex Thul received the intelligence reports about the approaching human fleet with a mixture of disbelief and anger. "They're actually coming here?" he asked his staff officers. "To Darwin Prime. Do they have any idea what our defensive capabilities are?" His tactical officer consulted his data pad. "Sir, our analysis suggests they must know they cannot win. Their fleet is powerful, but our defenses are overwhelming. This appears to be a suicide mission." Zex Thul pondered this information. In his experience, species only launched suicide attacks when they were facing extinction. But humans weren't. Facing extinction, they were fighting because they chose to fight. "Perhaps they hope to damage our forces enough to improve their negotiating position," suggested another officer. But humans had already made it clear they weren't interested in negotiations. Every time the hegemony attempted to open diplomatic channels, the response was the same: surrender the beings responsible for the attack on Earth for trial and punishment. The concept of putting military commanders on trial for following orders was so alien to hegemony, thinking that they couldn't even understand what humans wanted. As the human fleet approached Darwin Prime, Admiral Kane sent her final message to Earth. "This is Admiral Jessica Kane of the Human Liberation Fleet. In 6 hours, we will engage the enemy forces responsible for the murder of our people. Some of us will not return home. All of us are ready to pay that price. We go into battle not for conquest or glory, but for justice. For the 200 million who cannot speak for themselves, we will speak with our weapons. For the families who will never be reunited, we will break the ones who broke them." She paused, looking out at the stars that surrounded the enemy fortress world. "Earth's children are coming home, and we're bringing justice with us. The final battle for Darwin Prime was about to begin. 1 year after the attack on Earth, the impossible was happening. The hegemony of Kethvar, rulers of this sector for thousands of years, was losing a war to a species they had dismissed as primitive. General Kethmore stood in the ruins of what had been hegemony military command on Darwin Prime. The human assault had lasted 3 days and nights of continuous fighting. When it ended, High Admiral Zex Thul was dead, and the hegemony's most powerful fortress world was in human hands. "How did this happen?" Kethmore asked his surviving staff officers. "How did they break through defenses that have protected us for centuries?" The answer was scattered across the battlefield outside. Human technology had evolved at an incredible rate. Ships that had once been converted mining vessels now carried weapons that surpassed anything in the hegemony arsenal. Dr. Sarah Kim walked through the captured hegemony research facilities, studying alien designs with a mixture of professional interest and personal satisfaction. Her team had been working for months to understand the principles behind hegemony technology, and now they had access to the original blueprints. Their mistake was assuming their technology couldn't be improved, she explained to Admiral Webb during a secure transmission. They've been using the same basic designs for thousands of years. We've been improving ours every single day since the war started. This was the fundamental difference between the two civilizations. The hegemony had achieved dominance through superior technology and had become comfortable with their advantage. Humans had been forced to innovate constantly just to survive. The results were beginning to show across the battlefield. Human ships now carried shield generators that could adapt to any weapon. Their engines were smaller but more powerful than hegemony designs. Their weapons could punch through any known armor, but the real advantage wasn't technological. It was psychological. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded a squadron of 12 ships that were hunting hegemony supply convoys in the outer systems. Her crews had been fighting for a year without rest, but their morale remained unbreakable. "Contact," reported her sensor officer. "Hegemony convoy, 15 ships including 4 heavy cruisers." In the early days of the war, this would have been a dangerous engagement for her small squadron. Now it was routine. "Signal the fleet," Vasquez ordered. "Standard engagement pattern. Remember, we're not here to destroy, we're here to capture." The human approach to warfare had evolved into something the galaxy had never seen before. They didn't just want to defeat the hegemony. They wanted to strip away every advantage that had allowed the aliens to dominate other species. The battle was over in 20 minutes. Human ships, working together with precision that amazed their enemies, disabled the hegemony vessels without destroying them. The aliens were captured, their ships were studied, and their technology was added to the growing database of human military knowledge. Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, now head of the Human Technology Integration Project, supervised the processing of captured equipment. Her engineers had become experts at reverse engineering alien designs and improving them. "We've identified 17 different ways to upgrade their weapon systems," she reported. "Their targeting computers are particularly interesting. They're designed to track large, slow-moving targets. Against fast, agile opponents like our fighters, they're almost useless." This was another critical difference between human and hegemony military thinking. The aliens had designed their weapons to fight other advanced civilizations with similar technology. Humans had designed theirs to fight anyone, anywhere, under any conditions. The psychological impact on hegemony forces was devastating. Alien. Commanders who had never experienced defeat were now losing battles. They should have won easily. Morale collapsed throughout the hegemony military as reports of human victories spread. Admiral Thekvar submitted his final report from the bridge of his crippled flagship. His battle group had been destroyed by a human fleet half its size, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "The humans don't fight according to any established doctrine," he wrote. "They use their civilian ships as weapons, platforms. They coordinate attacks through methods our intelligence cannot decode. They employ strategies that seem designed to maximize our casualties while minimizing their own." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had developed their own military doctrine during the war. It was based on principles that no other species had ever considered. Every human ship was equipped with artificial intelligence systems that learned from each battle. These AIs were connected through quantum communication networks that allowed instant coordination across vast distances. When one human ship learned an effective tactic, every ship in the fleet knew about it within minutes. More importantly, human crews had developed an emotional bond with their AI systems that horrified hegemony observers. Humans didn't just use their computers as tools. They treated them as partners, friends, even family members. Private Jackson Torres, now a sergeant in the Human Marine Corps, worked with an AI companion named Victoria during ground operations on captured hegemony worlds. "Sergeant Torres," Victoria's voice spoke through his helmet communicator. "I'm detecting movement in Sector 7. 3 enemy squads attempting to flank our position. Torres smiled grimly. Victoria had been with him through 6 major battles, and they had developed an almost telepathic understanding of each other's capabilities. Thanks, Vic. Can you coordinate with the other AIs to set up a crossfire? Already done, Sergeant. The aliens will be caught in a kill zone in 30 seconds. This level of human-AI cooperation was something the hegemony had never encountered. Their own computer systems were advanced, but remained tools to be used rather than partners to be trusted. The siege of Kethvar Prime, the hegemony capital world, began 6 months after the fall of Darwin Prime. Admiral Kane, now promoted to fleet commander, deployed her forces in a ring around the alien homeworld. But instead of launching an immediate assault, the humans did something that terrified the defenders more than any direct attack. They waited. Human fleets positioned themselves at every jump point leading to Kethvar Prime. Supply convoys were intercepted and captured. Communication networks were jammed. The capital of the hegemony was slowly cut off from the rest of their empire. President Veltar of the Hegemony Council watched his civilization slowly strangle from his palace on Kethvar Prime. Food shipments had stopped arriving. Raw materials for manufacturing were running out. The great fleets that had once terrorized the galaxy were trapped in their home system. "Why don't they attack?" he asked his military advisors. "What are they waiting for?" The answer came in a transmission from Fleet Commander Kane, broadcast on all hegemony frequencies. "People of the hegemony," Kane's voice echoed through the alien cities. "1 year ago, your leaders fired 12 missiles at our homeworld. They killed 200 million innocent people. They poisoned our oceans. They tried to break our spirit through terror." The transmission continued, and aliens throughout the capital system listened with growing dread. "Now you know how it feels to watch your world die slowly. You know how it feels to be helpless while those you love suffer. You know how it feels to face extinction at the hands of a stronger enemy." Kane's voice hardened with satisfaction. "The difference is that we're giving you a choice your leaders never gave us. Surrender the individuals responsible for the attack on Earth, and your people will live. Continue to protect them, and watch your civilization end piece by piece." The psychological warfare was more effective than any weapon. The hegemony had ruled through fear for millennia, but they had never been on the receiving end of that fear. Now they understood what their victims had felt. Riots began in the alien cities as civilians demanded that their leaders surrender the military commanders responsible for the attack. The hegemony government, which had seemed invincible just months before, was collapsing from within. But humans weren't finished. They had one more lesson to teach the galaxy about the price of attacking their families. The final phase of the siege was about to begin, and it would demonstrate that human patience was far more terrifying than human fury. 18 months after the attack on Earth, President Veltar of the Hegemony Council stood before the emergency session of alien leaders. His once proud civilization was crumbling, and the humans showed no signs of stopping their relentless advance. "We must face reality," Veltar announced to the assembled representatives of 4 species. "The humans have defeated every fleet we've sent against them. They control 70% of our territory. Our people are starving on the capital worlds." Around the table, alien faces showed the strain of a war they had never expected to fight. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy through superiority and fear. Now they were learning what it felt like to be on the losing side. "Perhaps we should consider their terms," suggested Admiral Kethvar, one of the few surviving military commanders. "They want the individuals responsible for the attack on Earth. If we surrender them, perhaps this madness will end." The suggestion was met with horrified silence. In hegemony culture, abandoning their own military leaders was unthinkable. But watching their civilization die was becoming even more unthinkable. Above Kethvar Prime, Fleet Commander Kane received regular reports from her intelligence teams. The alien government was fracturing as different factions argued about surrender. Some wanted to continue fighting, others wanted to negotiate. A few were calling for the complete capitulation that humans demanded. "Ma'am," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving another transmission from the Hegemony Council. They're requesting negotiations." Kane had heard this request dozens of times over the past months. Her response was always the same. "Tell them what I've told them every time before. We don't negotiate with child killers. They have one choice: surrender the criminals responsible for the attack on Earth or watch their worlds burn one by one." But the humans weren't planning to burn alien worlds. They had something much more sophisticated in mind. Dr. Sarah Kim, now Director of Human Strategic Operations, worked with a team of experts to plan the final phase of the war. Her laboratory had evolved into a center for psychological and social engineering on a galactic scale. "We've completed the analysis of hegemony society," she reported to Admiral Webb and Fleet Commander Kane during their strategic planning session. "Their entire civilization is built on the concept of strength through unity. If we can break that unity, their government will collapse without us firing another shot." The plan that emerged was more complex than any military operation humans had ever attempted. Instead of conquering hegemony worlds, they would liberate them. Instead of punishing alien civilians, they would turn them against their own leaders. The operation began with simultaneous attacks on all 4 hegemony homeworlds. But these weren't military assaults. They were information campaigns. Human ships appeared in orbit around each alien planet and began broadcasting. Not threats or demands, but something much more powerful: the truth. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the fleet responsible for Thekvar Prime, homeworld of the Thekvar species. Her ships transmitted continuously on all frequencies, telling the alien civilians exactly what their leaders had done. "People of Thekvar Prime," her voice echoed through alien cities, "your government told you that humans were a threat to galactic peace. They told you that the attack on Earth was necessary for your security. We're here to show you what they really did." The transmissions included recordings of the missile attack, images of the devastation on Earth, and testimony from human survivors. But most importantly, they included captured communications between hegemony leaders showing that the attack had been planned as a demonstration of power, not a defensive action. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Alien civilians, who had been told they were fighting a defensive war, discovered that their leaders had started an aggressive conflict against a peaceful species. Riots broke out in alien cities as the truth spread. Civilians demanded answers from their governments. Military units began to refuse orders. The hegemony's iron grip on their own people was dissolving. On Darvel Prime, homeworld of the Darvel species, General Martinez led a different kind of operation. His ships didn't attack military targets. They targeted the economic infrastructure that kept the hegemony war machine running. "Precision strikes only," Martinez ordered his fleet. "Disable their factories, destroy their supply depots, but don't harm civilian areas. We want them to understand that their suffering comes from their leaders' choices, not our cruelty." The strategy was working perfectly. Alien civilians watched human forces methodically dismantle their military-industrial complex while carefully avoiding civilian casualties. The contrast with their own leaders' willingness to target human families was impossible to ignore. President Veltar received reports of the spreading chaos from all corners of his empire. His own people were turning against him. Military commanders were deserting their posts. The hegemony was falling apart from within. "Sir," reported his aide, "we have confirmation that the Kethvar Third Fleet has surrendered to human forces. Admiral Thekamol is requesting asylum with the humans, rather than return to face our military tribunal." This was the final blow to hegemony unity. When their own military leaders preferred human justice to hegemony loyalty, the government's moral authority was completely destroyed. The end came not with a battle, but with a simple transmission. Fleet. Commander Kane received a message from Kethvar Prime 18 months and 7 days after the attack on Earth. President Veltar appeared on her screen, No longer the arrogant leader who had demanded human submission, but a broken alien facing the collapse of his civilization. "Fleet Commander Kane," Veltar said, his voice heavy with defeat. "The Hegemony Council surrenders unconditionally. We will turn over all individuals responsible for the attack on your homeworld. We will accept any terms you choose to impose." Kane felt a moment of satisfaction, but it was tempered by the memory of 200 million dead humans. Justice was finally within reach, but it couldn't bring back the lives that had been lost. "Your surrender is accepted," Kane replied. "But understand, we're not here to destroy your people. We're here to ensure that what happened to Earth never happens to anyone else." The trials of hegemony war criminals took place on Earth in a courthouse built from the radioactive ruins of Tokyo. High Admiral Zexthal was already dead, killed during the battle for Darwin Prime, but 47 other military and political leaders faced human justice. The trials were broadcast throughout the galaxy, showing every species exactly what humans considered to be war crimes. The message was clear. Attacking civilian populations would result in personal consequences for those who gave the orders, but the humans surprised the galaxy once again with their final decision. Instead of executing the war criminals or imprisoning them forever, they imposed a different sentence. Every convicted alien would spend the next 20 years helping to rebuild Earth, working alongside human survivors to repair the damage their decisions had caused. More importantly, they would help establish a new interstellar framework, a galactic council where attacking civilian populations would be considered the ultimate crime, punishable by the combined forces of all member species. The hegemony species were not enslaved or exterminated. Instead, they were integrated into this new galactic community, contributing their technology and knowledge to the common good. Many alien leaders expected this integration to be a form of disguised servitude. They were wrong again. 5 years after the attack on Earth, Ambassador Kethtar of the former hegemony stood in the rebuilt city of New Tokyo, attending the graduation ceremony of the first class of the Galactic Military Academy. Half the graduates were human. The other half came from dozens of alien species, including many from the former hegemony. "It's remarkable," Kethtar said to his human counterpart, Ambassador Chen. "Your people could have enslaved us, exterminated us, or forced us into permanent submission. Instead, you made us partners." Ambassador Chen smiled, looking out at the mixed group of human and alien graduates who would serve together in the new Galactic Defense Force. "We learned something during the war," Chen replied. "Hatred and fear make terrible foundations for galactic civilization, but justice and cooperation can build something that lasts forever." In the distance, the monument to the 200 million dead caught the light of Earth's rebuilt sun. The inscription was simple, written in every language spoken by every species in the galaxy. "They tried to break our spirit with 12 missiles. Instead, they taught us that some lessons can only be learned through strength. We became their teachers so our children would never need to be. The war was over, the galaxy was at peace, and humanity had proven that even in the depths of their fury, they could build something better than what they had destroyed. The age of the hegemony was finished. The age of galactic cooperation had begun, and it had started with 12 missiles that were meant to bring humanity to its knees, but instead had awakened something that would reshape the stars forever."